Well, hello, everyone. This is the finals of the Vintage Showcase Challenge against reojund, the challenge that I won. I happen to know he is on duo shops. I am on Soul Time Midrange that I crafted. And in this matchup, what we really want is a noof as early as possible, especially on game 1. That's almost guaranteed to win. We're on the draw, and this has a turn 1 oof. It has no force protection though, which is scary. But I decide, I'm just gonna keep it. I'm just gonna jam an oof and hope it works. If the oof resolves, I'm probably winning. If it doesn't, I'm probably losing. Let's see how it goes. He starts with a turn 1 ring. Okay. He'll have 4 cards in hand. If he has force blue card, we're in trouble. I decide to play a wasteland in case I draw another wasteland next turn, so I can double waste him. But here it's all about youth. If it resolves, great. It doesn't though. He has a sink into stupor and a force. And from here, Jewel's gonna just eat me alive. Not much I can do. Jewel is kind of like Hoops in Legacy. You just have to be really defensive at all times. Otherwise, they'll just run over with the game. Here he plays a million spells and manages to find a vault key and win. Okay, game 2. We bring in 2 consigns. This counters mostly everything, but also Argentum Masticore and Wormcoil Engine. We bring in Edict. Edict is one of the slots I struggled quite a bit to decide, and ultimately I think it should have been what's the name of that card? Unable to Scream, the enchantment that turns into a 0-2 toy with no abilities. This is a card I want mostly for Argentum Masticore. But, Edict has some value in that it kills Tezzeret. It's also, pretty useful in the fair frog matchups. It can kill an Atraxa, though I'm not sure if I'm bringing it against Oath. But yeah, mostly the function is to kill Argentum Masticore. It's a kind of a poor answer to Wormcoil Engine though. That's why I think it should have been unable to scream ultimately. But and I actually wanted 2 answers. I just couldn't find a slot at all. But yeah, that's the main function it has. It's to kill the Masticore. We can trim a land and we can keep just 1 decay for Tezzeret and stuff. We could bring a Bronco, for example, but blue count is so important in this matchup, you want to have as much as possible. And the Murktide is actually quite decent. It presents a big clock, and it can maybe raise a Masticore, for example, if there's not much else going on in the game. So yeah, we keep it like that. Okay, so this hand, it has double consign, Force Fluster, but our mana is entirely in the shape of Moxes. And remember, really the plan in this matchup is to find a noof. The best thing we can do is turn 1 with a force. So is this hand good enough? Yeah, I think this hand is good enough. Double consign is super strong. And it will give us a lot of time to find something. If we find a land and a noof eventually, okay, we can play off of 1 land. And so we started out. Opponent starts with land, Monolith. We're not countering Monolith, and he doesn't play anything else. He's probably playing around Mindbreak Trap. My list is very rogue at this point, so we could have anything. Tutor, that's not great right now. And the opponent thinks a bit and goes for a time vault. Okay, this is interesting. If we do not counter this time vault, we're committing ourselves to countering every single Tezzeret key and dealing with every saga. The thing though is that we can actually do that. We can consign the saga trigger, we can counter Tezzeret, and cannot go around spewing resources like that. Oh, I'm afraid of time vault. No, I mean, we want to counter Tezzeret anyways, so it's better to just keep the resources to counter the cards that matter. So we let this resolve. Although it's a consideration for sure. He plays Talongate and passes. Playing Talongate aggressively like this is a card that, is so important for them because it stops youth. This makes me think he has a PO in hand. With Talongates, he could PO for 3, end of turn. And yeah, he must have some sort of blue card. It would make no sense to play the Talongates otherwise. I'm gonna keep the mana open, of course. He thinks he stops and waits in the end of turn. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he has a PO at this point. Ultimately, he decides, I don't want to get caught by a Spell Pierce or a Fluster. Then the Monolith is tapped and I'm in super big trouble. And he goes for it on his turn with Ancient Tomb to pay for a Fluster. Okay, yeah, I mean, Ancestral Recall is not a card we're willing to let him have. We have to fight over this. So yeah, we fluster. Well, we cannot fluster. We force it and we pitch this frog. Like I said, you want to be as defensive as possible. This fluster still has uses against opposing force or whatever. And the frog is not coming down anytime soon. And he does have a force, so glad we kept the fluster. And now the game's... Sorry about that. Okay, the game's looking good for us. He's really low on resources at this point. Here it's a question, do we demonic? Do we Thoughtseize? What do we demonic for? And I decide, he's already low on resources. I think I can strip him even more, get some information on what he's working with, and then I can decide on this demonic. Wormcoil and Metamorph. Okay, we have an answer to Wormcoil. But at the same time, we don't want to go around spewing our answers. We want to keep them as much as possible, and this Metamorph just really doesn't do much. Major consideration is that it's a blue card for force. He already wasted a force, so there are some uses to the Metamorph. He can copy a frog, he can copy a noof to prevent a clock, stuff like that, but Wormcoil is a must counter threat. Let's just get it out of the way. Here he draws a ring. No. That's not gonna happen. Okay, in our turn we probe. We already know what he has. And we find a strip mine. Strip mine, I mean, there's a few options here. We could DT for an oof, but oof is not doing that much anymore. And we could still lose the game to, some lands plus Masticore plus Wormcoil. It's not terrible, but it's not urgent. And I decide, I'd rather get an Ancestral here. Because the Ancestral is gonna find me an oof eventually, and it's gonna be more card advantage. The main problem with this line is that I'm opening myself up for him to draw Force of Will. Okay, that's something I'm gonna have to live with. It's a bit risky, though. At the same time, I cannot really go for it on his turn because he might top deck manifold key. Some lists don't even play a key, but most lists do play one. And like, do I risk it? Do I try to find a do I risk a force or do I risk a key? There's three forces and one key, but the game isn't over if he finds a force. So, I just take a bit of a gamble. I say, no, fuck it, you're not gonna draw a force. I know you, man. You're not gonna do it. Also, okay. And so he just passes the turn, and end of turn, I cross my fingers. I cast my Ancestral. Ooh, okay, it resolves. And this is great. Now the game is so much in our favor. I'm gonna start with library here. It's gonna give us so much card selection and advantage. Sure, the frog is nice, but library is gonna find us exactly what we need. And we even get to shuffle. Next turn, we don't have to waste our fetch. Even if we have to spell pierce something. Okay, so he finds a land. Metamorph, he's thinking, oh, I'm gonna copy this library and be happy. I'm gonna draw a million cards. Then he realizes, fuck, I cannot copy this library. Damn. Yeah, live and learn. So he copies a monolith. I don't think he wanted to do this, honestly. Now we found a noof, and like I said, with this library here, the game is over. We're just gonna draw everything we need. Play a noof, we play a frog, we keep the spell pierce mana open, we draw more wastelands, we draw more cards. We waste him, we attack, and he plays a manifold key. Here, I'm a bit scared, like maybe he has a Talon Gates for the oof. I know I can consign the trigger, but that's really the only thing that kind of scares me. I should have actually used the consign here so I could keep the spell pierce or dismember. But I mean, doesn't matter. We have so much going on. We have another wasteland. And we win the game. He concedes to this wasteland. Okay, so game three. We're on the draw. Nothing changes really. You could maybe put a fluster, but I think two flusters is enough against Jewel. They have very few instants. I think it's just Force and PO and the Sink into Stupor. Well, I mean, Ancestral Time Walk, stuff like that, but it's not much. And yeah, let's cross our fingers and hope for the best. We want to win this one. How about this hand? Like, okay, it has a force. That's the first thing. We're on the draw, and it has a force against Jewel. Doesn't have an oof. And but double ponder. Cantrip is cantrip is strong. We're keeping this. We're forcing the turn one play, hoping to find more counters and more action, hoping to find an oof off of this ponder. Black Lotus. Scary card. But I mean, we just have one force, we cannot really counter this. Time Vault. Again, same problem as last game. We're committing ourselves to counting every Tezzeret, every key, wasting every saga. But it's what you gotta do. You cannot spew resources like that. And he thinks for a while, he's thinking maybe, does he have Mind Break? Does he even have a force? What do I do here? And sorry. He goes for a very scary card. Trinisphere. No, Trinisphere is not gonna happen. Maybe he's thinking like, what if he has a wasteland and this Trinisphere is super bad for me? But I mean, with our hand, this Trinisphere would just be GG. Okay, fetch is nice. Let's see what this ponder finds us. Here's some small debate over whether I get an underground or a tropical. I decide for a tropical. I think I was thinking, maybe I draw a wasteland and I can also play Oof or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Like underground would be better to find a hedge mates later and have both colors, but whatever. Okay, so I found Lotus Gush Wasteland. No force, which means we're dead to a Tezzeret, we're dead to a key. Uh, scary, but Lotus allows us to play Sylvan Library, and then we start having an immense card advantage engine. Library is a card I'm super happy I put in this build. I thought a lot about this deck list, and there are only two cards that I'm not sold on, but Library is one of the cards I really liked, precisely because of these scenarios, and also because it's a pyroblastable card advantage engine against PO. And you know, I decided I like this enough. I'm gonna play this Lotus, I'm gonna play this Library. I'm just gonna hope to survive for a turn, and then I have Wasteland, I have Gush, I have more Ponders, and I have so much card advantage if I survive that this is good enough. Shuffling is not good. Shuffling could shuffle us into just another land. That's a very poor use of our resources. I keep out Lotus and Wasteland on top. I go for the Library, it resolves. Now I'm just crossing my fingers, no Tezzeret. Saga. Saga is a bit scary, but we have a Wasteland. We draw our cards. Underground Sea. We don't really need an Underground Sea, so I decide to just ship it back. Here I'm thinking what to do with my turn. I'm, thinking my whole turn through first. And that's what you should do before you put something back. And now the question is like, do we play a frog? Or do we wasteland and ponder? Frog will give us even more card advantage. And, maybe Gush is enough protection. It could draw us into a Force of Will. The Saga, the really scary part is the key for the Time Vault. But I decide, I actually don't want any constructs here. Even one construct is bad news because of this library. My life total is a very precious resource right now. And I want a force. I want some type of counter. I don't need more card advantage. Library is already super good. I just need to survive, and I'm gonna win. I don't have to be greedy here. So I just go for, sorry. Yeah, I go for a ponder. It's lagging a bit. And there's a force. There's a force and a spell pierce, both which are pretty good. We're taking force. And we're keeping spell pierce on top, and we don't even have to shuffle because we're gonna use a wasteland. We have to use a wasteland on the saga to prevent the key. We're in good shape. He plays a Talon Gates, which means, he doesn't have probably any other mana source. As I said, this is a really precious land for him. And he plays Tezzeret. Ah, glad we have a force. Okay, we pitch the Gush here. Gush is really good, but the Frog is... We need a clock, and the Frog is gonna draw us 2 cards. Our turn. Okay, this Mox Chat is really good. It allows us to play the Frog and keep the Spell Pierce mana up. Very happy with that. His turn. What does he draw? Time Walk. Oof. What do we do? I mean, generally you don't counter Time Walks like that because you'd rather counter the actual threat that they're deploying. But in this spot, it's such a juicy target because we have so many stuff we can find that will just prevent him from landing a threat altogether. Like we could find another Wasteland and then he cannot play a Tezzeret anymore, for example. Or we could find a Noof and then the Tezzeret doesn't matter that much. I mean, he could find a portable hole and stuff, but we're gonna draw so many cards next turn that I think we can leverage this to our advantage. So this is a very juicy Spell Pierce target. We're gonna do it. We also shuffle the Underground Sea. Okay, Shieldred's Edict. This is here for the Masticore, and it's a nice pickup. It's one of the cards that could fuck us up. But we don't need to pay 4 life. We're gonna draw a card with Frog anyway. So we draw it. Play an Oof. Now, Key is no longer an out for him. And, we're getting pretty close to a win. He draws, and... Sorry, it's lagging quite a bit, I don't know why. But anyway, he just plays a Soporific Springs and passes a turn. Here we Sylvan Library, Time Walk and Fetch. Actually, this is pretty much GG's, although I did it wrong. Slightly wrong, a little bit. And because we have a Mystic Sanctuary, and we can just Time Walk and Mystic Sanctuary again, and it should be enough for lethal. I should have kept the Underground Sea. Well, this what I did is not bad because we get an extra Surveil, and lands is the... We can always find another fetch or something. But yeah, I should have done it the other way around. We kept a polluted delta on top actually, so yeah, we fetched to shuffle a fetch that we actually wanted. And here it's just gonna be GG's. We're gonna draw. We have an Oof. That's 2 more damage. And we're gonna have a Mystic Sanctuary. Sanctuary is just so good. It has been amazing for me. I'm really surprised that nobody's playing it. Maybe they think it's some sort of gimmicky card, or you're never gonna get to 4 mana. But the reality is you get to 4 mana a lot versus any non-wasteland deck. You're getting to 4 mana, and then you have Ancestral again, you have Time Walk. Mystic is so powerful with Frog. Here, yeah, we Mystic for a Time Walk. We discard the Edict for extra damage. We play the Oof, and we have 6 damage next turn. So yeah, like I was saying, I think with Frog, Mystic Sanctuary is super powerful. Same thing with Gush, it works so well with Frog. And of course the Sanctuary and Gush work super well together. Here just draw for, whatever. And I think, maybe I'll fetch down to 1, to make that really aesthetically pleasing win, but I was kind of a coward and said, no, I'm gonna keep it healthy to life. And I mean, GG's. This I was super happy to win this tournament because I put a lot of thought into the deck list and how the meta was shaping, was operating. Took quite some time for me to really grasp how the vintage meta was working, but I think I finally did. And this list was the result of it, and it obviously worked. I would change a couple of cards. I would change the Children's Edict for an Unable to Scream, and maybe the Leovold for either a Hull Breacher or a Narset. That's, small edges. Leovold is much better against Frog decks, but it's quite a bit worse against Jewel, for example. And Jewel was on a rise. I thought about this. That's why I also chose this list, because I thought Jewel would be everywhere. It's a super powerful deck. And, Hull Breacher is a lot better because they cannot draw a card with one ring on your turn, they cannot PO for one on your turn, stuff like that that actually matters. But, overall, I'm super happy with the list, and super happy I won this showcase. I won 2 showcases in a row. Don't know when I'm gonna get this lucky again, so, just celebrate for now. GG's.